Well, good morning or good afternoon or good day.
Good middle of the night to some of you.
Would people be listening to us in the middle of the night? That's insomnia at a whole new level.
Listen, we're just. What if that's how they go to sleep?
That could be.
What if they're, I
Turn
just
on
can't
the
go
Pastords.
to sleep. Put those Pastords
No,
on.
can't I just count sheep? Don't do it.
That droning sound it does every time.
Well, it's the laugh track.
Love the Pastords for some sleepy time.
Yeah, we don't say anything we're thinking about, and so people are like, I just could really get some rest right now.
Listen, however we're helping you out there in digital land, internet world, all the stuff going on through the air, if we're you,
the interweb,
Snapface,
InstaChat, Face Snap.
Hey, I got a trivia question for you.
For me or for our listeners?
No, for you. No,
really?
Okay. I thought you liked this stuff. I thought you would find this fun.
Okay.
Maybe I should do this every time. Maybe it should be a feature. Just Raj's trivia question. Trivia.
Are you going English now?
Trivia.
You've been watching Clarkson's Farm a little
Clarkson's
bit.
Farm.
Clarkson's Farm. Trivia.
Blimey.
He calls his girlfriend Lisa. I'm pretty sure it's Lisa, not Lisa. But who knows? Okay, so
he's not.
No, let me go there, Raj. Trivia question number 1.
All right, trivia question.
On this day,
right,
November 15th.
No, it's a little different kind. Hang with me.
Okay.
So, came across the other day the list of the top 20 fast food restaurants in Alabama. So, I want you to try. Don't worry about the order. The top 5. Okay. See if you can give 5. See if you make the top 5. One shocked me. Top 5. Okay, fast food.
Because it's Alabama, I'm going to throw this one in there. I don't get it. I don't like it. I don't eat there. But Jack's.
Okay. Now, see, Jack's is tied for 3rd.
Yeah.
I had never
not good
been to Jack's.
I shouldn't say that. Some people love Jack's. So
I had never been to Jack's before a week ago. I was visiting mom and dad, and they had a COVID lockdown.
Nothing else to eat.
So there wasn't a meal. Normally I'll eat a meal with them when I go visit them.
Oh, they had a COVID lockdown at their Rosewood facility?
Right.
Okay. I don't like the word facility. Their Rosewood home.
Rosewood. Funeral home.
It does have more of a funeral home sound. I think you got to change that.
So anyway, right around the corner, 2 blocks away, and I just went something close, was a Jack's. I didn't even know what they served. I ended up getting a hamburger and mashed potatoes. So it was kind of anyway.
That's an interesting combination.
Okay, but that's number 3. That's tied for. Okay, so you got one of the top 5.
Okay, so
bing, 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 bing.
I'm thinking McDonald's is big.
Okay.
Wendy's. These are fast food.
No. Okay, Wendy's not in the top 5. So McDonald's is number 2. Jack's tied for number 3.
There's a Taco Bell on every corner.
Taco Bell is number 5. So you've got 3. So you've only missed 1.
I feel like I'm in the college football playoffs thing right now.
You still haven't gotten the number 1.
Number 1 this is in the state of Alabama.
Yes, Bruce. Still in the state of Alabama.
Popeyes?
Nope.
Bojangles.
Oh,
Hardee's. Hardee's has got to be big.
No, it's not the top 5. I mean,
really?
Hardee's is there. Yeah, right.
That is fascinating.
You're missing 2.
Okay, missing 2. Oh, wait. I can do this. I'm very good at this. Well, I know.
Well, you're proving that.
I know it's not Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Nope. No.
Did you know Jack's serves chicken? It's an interesting thing.
Well, they when I went to Jack's, so I'd never been there before. So I'm looking at their menu, and really, it was like a Kentucky Fried with hamburgers.
Yeah. Is Pizza Hut fast food? I don't even know.
It is.
Is it in the list?
It's not in the top 5.
Well, forget I said it then.
It's on the top 20.
Okay, wait. Fast food. I just don't eat enough fast food these days.
One, you'll kick your. Well,
I'll get it. Give me a second. So you've got McDonald's, you've got Wendy's, you've got Hardee's, you've got Arby's.
No.
Ugh. Okay, this is an Alabama thing, isn't it? It's an Alabama thing. It's an Alabama tradition.
One is one that probably the number 1 one might fool a number of people, but it's not even close. I mean, the number 1 dwarfs McDonald's at number 2.
Okay, you have to.
By the way, your Chick-fil-A is 14.
Yeah, I'm a Chick-fil-A guy, but that's what is it?
Number 1 is Subway.
I would have never in 100 million years.
Oh, and it's like 200 more than McDonald's.
No, so that's like one of my favorite places to eat. I even eat there, like when I take groups to California, we eat at Subways.
Okay.
Because it's something you like, everyone likes, and you can't stop at a Chick-fil-A in California because it'll take you 8 hours.
Okay. What I liked when I visited, when Mom was in the hospital, they had a Subway in the hospital, and I didn't know. Their pizza was really good. They had these pizza, but you could, whatever ingredients, so they've got all this stuff. Right. You just say whatever you want on there. It was really good. So it's all these fresh veggies.
Subway.
Yeah. Anyways.
So who was number 4?
Tied for 3 with Jack's with Burger King.
Burger King. Interesting.
Yeah. So
I'll like their little breakfast croissant every now and then. That's the only thing pretty much I'll eat at Burger King.
I do like the Whopper.
Well, the Whopper doesn't like me. It gives me lots of gas. It's a real gassy burger, so I've just learned not to.
Well, I'm not. Don't want to really get in discussion what all these.
But I love the idea that.
What does Subway do to you, Bruce?
Nothing. But it's like the Brazier burger. That was
Dairy Queen.
Dairy Queen.
Yeah.
But when I was listening to Clarkson's Farm, when they were talking about grilling something, they would say, fire up the Brazier. The Brazier. I'm like, oh,
the Brazier.
Yeah, that was yes, Dairy Queen, because you worked at a Dairy Queen.
It was my second job.
Your second job
after Red Food Store. I worked at flipped hamburgers and
then you went to
Loveman's. I did,
and brought home really cool velour things with V-neck
was
velour.
That Roger's
shirts.
Weirdest season of his life? You're now imagining Roger working in the men's clothing section.
Okay.
Of Loveman's department
of any store. No, this was your life. So Roger had his own room. I never had my own room. David never had his own room. But Roger got his own room. So he was the firstborn. He got his own room. He had a motorcycle. Roger had a motorcycle. A Honda 100 CB 100 motorcycle.
Slightly larger than
I drove more than he did, as it turns out. He just didn't know that.
Unbeknownst to me.
He would come home after church and go, why is my motorcycle ticking in the garage?
What's that burning
And it's
smell?
so hot. So then this car, you have to understand, this motorcycle did not have an electric start, and the kickstart didn't work. So you had to roll it down a hill.
That's right.
To start it.
That's right.
So you had to push it to the top of the driveway, then go down the driveway, release pop the clutch.
That's
great fun.
I forgot that. Yes.
So he worked Red Food Store, and I followed him there. But by the time I got there, he was on his way out to Dairy Queen, moving on up, and then the Loveman's, the men's department at a Loveman's store, which is fashionable men's clothing.
No, I would literally. I learned.
Which Roger, for a little while, wore some fashionable things.
I did.
It just didn't last.
I just didn't
stay with them.
I'm still wearing them.
Well, yeah, he's still wearing the stuff he bought at Loveman's 40 years ago. So there's that.
No, yes, that was just a very fascinating season of my life that I can't even imagine.
How long did you work at Red Food Store?
Red Food?
How many years?
Red Food?
Uh-huh.
I don't recall at all.
So 7 years there. 7 years of my life at a food store. Isn't that wild? You moved around a lot more.
Yeah.
Your path was a little more like Zach's path.
But it's funny because of how old stuff gets to you, how quickly you get bored with things.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that you stayed with, that's actually an anomaly. The fact that you stayed with that long because you liked, I've always liked trying new stuff and venturing out anew, even today.
Here's what's interesting about me. I defy all stereotypes. So yeah, I move on to things quicker than some.
Right.
But I can't say quicker than most anymore. You realize how many 7-year stints I've had at things? Which to me seems short. I'm comparing that to like our father who had a 45-year stint at the same organization.
Right. Yeah.
Professor and all that.
Sure.
But it was interesting. 7 years at Red Food Store. 7 years at Rocket City Community Church.
Okay.
7 years at West Side Community Church.
Okay.
Which is interesting.
Yeah. I know Princeton Auto was not 7. Was that 7 weeks?
We didn't even get 7 weeks. Princeton Auto. Well, maybe it was 7 weeks. That was less about I got tired of it and more that I ran out of money entirely. I only
Is that
did
called
quick
an
print.
unprofitable business?
Yeah, I only did quick print 2 years.
Only 2.
So quick print
That was quick.
and Joyful Christian Ministries Incorporated were a 7-year stint that ran together.
So I would have guessed longer at quick print.
I was only there 2 years.
And then Joyful Woman, how long there?
Joyful Christian Ministries, Raj. We don't call it Joyful Woman.
I'll call it Joyful Woman if I want. Joyful Woman, Joyful Woman.
Okay, I was at the Joyful Woman for 5 years.
5 years.
Isn't that a long time?
That is also fascinating.
It's why I do so many women's conference and women's retreats now.
It's
the only thing I know.
That seed was germinated in that season. And
it's taken root now.
Still.
But it's a lot of fun. So interesting. Yeah. So did you see the new college football playoff poll?
It looked like the one the week before.
Unchanged. So now it's
except
Tennessee's
LSU is and USC, a two-loss team is right behind.
So you know what the
Tennessee
odds of LSU getting in are? 5%.
Okay.
Which is fascinating. But I love LSU creeping up because I want LSU and Alabama to keep creeping up because it makes our strength of schedule. The two teams we beat, are in top 10. That's a good thing.
Right.
That's a big plus. But yeah, unless Tennessee loses, it doesn't look like there's any way for them to stay out of the championship. Because like I was listening to ESPN radio this morning, and they were like, all right, really, even if Ohio State loses, a one-loss Ohio State
doesn't have the resume.
Let's see, they beat Indiana. That was good. Rutgers.
Right.
So, no, when you go through the litany, the only team, even Illinois is like on the way down, it looks like.
Yep.
9-3,
they're going down.
They're going down. So, yeah, I just don't.
No, the only quality win is Penn State.
Yeah, I don't.
The only quality win Ohio State and Michigan have is Penn State.
And the only team that beat Tennessee was the number one team in the nation and the defending national championship at Georgia.
The consensus number one,
right,
on the road. Yeah. So
I feel very good about. So I'm making
Tennessee
plans.
Just needs to finish their business.
Yes, December 31st. I plan to be in Sevierville, Tennessee, watching the Tennessee game with Mark Booth.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I'm like, that's the game. That's the two. I don't know. I guess they're going to put us in Atlanta, which will feel like a home game for Tennessee. It'll be a home game for Georgia if it's 1-4.
Well, that's what I'm concerned about.
The good news is
another home game for Georgia.
But here's the thing: very likely you're going to have as many or more Tennessee fans there.
Okay,
because Tennessee fans travel.
Yeah.
And the other one's like in the Fiesta Bowl. So I'm pretty sure that's going to be Ohio State and TCU. If they win out, good for them. That's all I can say. Good. Yeah. A little bit like Cincinnati last year.
But TCU has some quality wins.
Yeah, I agree.
They have some quality wins, and I think they've got a conference championship. So
they have a championship that they have to play.
So now, if they win out,
now granted, they might be playing Illinois or Iowa. I'm sorry, that's in the Pac-10. That's in the Big Ten. No, they might play.
All your 10s are messed up today.
Well, they're 10s and 12s. What is it? Baylor? Possible. I'm just trying to think on the other side of the division. Or
I don't know who's on the other. I don't track that division.
There's a reason you don't.
Oklahoma State I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah. So good times. Very excited about that. And then it could be Tennessee going to the big game.
Yes. No, 1-4. That'd be fascinating.
Yeah, rematch.
If they end up having a rematch with Georgia, I think that would be
a good thing.
Fascinating, although it could be very interesting if that ended up being the championship game, because if they slipped up, if TCU loses, Ohio State or Michigan, one of them has to lose because they play each other, I think, this weekend. Right. So if they ended up
at 3,
they could end up playing Georgia for the national championship,
because 2 and 3 have to play each other. So you could get an Ohio State Tennessee matchup, which would be a lot of fun.
Right. If Georgia beats, then whoever ends up being in that 4th slot.
Yeah. Who would that be? Michigan with a 1-loss Michigan team?
Well, if USC wins out, They've got one loss, and that Pac-10. I mean, the Pac-12 has been better than.
yeah.
But it's got a number of ranked. So if they were to win out, there's some speculation that
you could have Georgia, USC, Tennessee, Ohio State.
Right.
That'd be fascinating. After watching TCU, I watched the whole game. After watching TCU in Texas last week, I don't mean any disrespect. I just don't see TCU beating any of the top 10 teams.
Well, the thing is, they were 7-point underdogs to Texas,
right?
And they did,
and they won a squeaker. But Roger, the first half, I think there was a total of 3 points scored. I mean, it was a offensive juggernaut.
Reminds me of
not
the Broncos and the Patriots in the first quarter.
Gosh,
like, we don't start well.
I don't even want to.
We don't.
Woo! Let's not even talk about Denver.
Oh, my last thing that I will talk about, though, for the Patriots.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So they have a winning record.
Yeah.
And they're alone in last place in their division at 5-4. So, and they now have the 7th playoff position.
4 teams from that division could go.
If the playoffs were today, all 4 teams in the division.
And we thought it was going to be the AFC West.
No, absolutely thought. And here's what's funny. You and I watched the opening Miami Patriots game. Here's what's so crazy. And you knew I was ticked about that.
That game mattered.
If they had won that game, they would be in first place in their division. Miami's in first place. If the Patriots had won that game,
flip the script.
But they're in 4th. Anyway, so it's
you guys have to win a few more times.
Fun.
Denver has to win out.
And we have the toughest rated schedule from here on out. So it's not.
Well, yeah, it turns out your division was very good.
Division's very good, and then we're playing some other. Anyway,
shocker of the weekend. Actually, Monday night is not the weekend, but the Washington Commanders brought an end to Philadelphia's unbeaten streak. I did not see that.
Which I always kind of like, because I like to protect the Patriots. Like, Miami and the Patriots have had that one, season where you've gone undefeated.
But then you all lost in the Super Bowl, kind of ruined the whole thing.
Yeah.
So Miami's still the only team that went undefeated and won the Super Bowl.
Right.
That's just crazy. You'd think more teams would have done that. When I think about how many undefeated teams have won a national championship, a lot.
In college. Right.
But not in, and that just shows you how good the pros are.
How good
any team can beat any other team on any given Sunday.
It is so hard. I mean, the odds of going Washington undefeated, Commanders period.
Beat Philadelphia. Just shocking.
And they're the other division, NFC East. So they're 5-5 and they're last place. So AFC East and NFC East both don't have a losing record in their divisions.
So speaking of last place.
All right, last place.
I finished the final pasture at the farm this weekend, getting it bush hogged. Okay. And I put some stuff on Facebook. You can see it out there.
It's very fun.
But if you look closely, you're going to see that the tractor I'm driving is 6 feet tall. Okay.
But it's no Lamborghini.
It's no Lamborghini, but I am pushing over trees, mowing down trees that are 6 feet taller than the tractor, and literally 12 feet tall. I mean, that bottom pasture, I don't think has been bush hogged in 10 years. These are trees. It took forever because you can't just mow. It's not like just mowing. I mean, you got to put it in low and in first, and it's slow going because these trees have 3-inch trunks on them. And you're just tearing those things out of the ground, cutting them. And
now, is that just the back? There's nothing on the front that's doing anything? It's just...
So the front end...
So you run over this 3-inch tree sapling or whatever. You kind of push it over, and then when the bush hog hits it...
It's a lot of noise. It's already noisy up there, with the tractor. And then when it hits the tree, it goes bam, bam, bush, bam.
Do you have earplugs?
No, I should have earplugs. What did you say? No, but it's like, I mean, it sounds like you're, and I almost bush hogged a cast iron bathtub that was apparently in the middle of this field. You couldn't see it.
You started to run over it. You said, whoa,
Roger, I actually drove essentially right next to it, like within inches of it. It was just outside my track, which is a good thing. And I'm like, man, I'm looking down because nothing grew through it. So it was a
yes.
there was 6 foot tall stuff everywhere except that. I'm like, what is that? And I'm like, it's a dadgum bat. It was turned upside down,
Right.
cast iron. But I used my 6,700 pound scoop on the front.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. And
that's what I'm talking about.
I picked up that bathtub,
scooped it up,
which is all fun. You have a little joystick that's doing all that. I am like Clarkson. I don't know what half the buttons do, but I can use the joystick. So up, down, and then you go right and left.
Oh no, the front loader is very much fun. You can do so much stuff with it.
Well, it turns out you can push over trees with it. Unless they're too big. I did run into one tree when I was doing a section on the edges, because on the edges, this stuff's like 10 feet tall. So I'm trying to clear it out where you can have the fence line and all that. And at one point, I wasn't really watching. I went bam right into a tree.
It was also fun on Clarkson's farm.
A
TV show,
Prime Video show,
where he used that front loader to help get up a slick hill.
We watched that, yeah. So it was a great idea.
It was brilliant.
In that low section, I realized there's a couple times we've got 4-wheel drive tractor, but the one side's getting pretty boggy, and it did fine. But I'm like, oh, you could use the scoop and pull yourself forward. I'm like, that is that. Yeah, I pointed that out to Marlena.
Fine and clarity. So, how many total acres on your farm?
50 acres.
Okay, 50 acres so that's an easy number to remember.
Good for me. It's actually 52, but I just call it
50. Okay, 52 acres. How many pastures then?
We have 4 pastures.
So 4 pastures.
But we have about 30 acres are not even clear.
So 30 acres of wood, even basically
woodland and wetland. And when I say wetland, not a lot of wetland, but there's a section on the northeast corner. Well, Zach wants to do duck hunting there, and his buddy Adam has already shot a bobcat and sent pictures. A bobcat, yeah. So we've got a huge coyote on the farm.
Are we telling Marlena?
Oh yeah, Marlena saw the picture of the bobcat. We have deer all over the place out there, and there's.
After this week, are there any fewer deer than there were?
Nope, they were hunting Monday morning early, but didn't get anything.
Okay, didn't get anything.
But I mean, they said I had made a lot of noise the day before.
You stirred up the.
So the deer were probably going where there was, because they probably roamed through that bottom pasture.
There's some tornado coming through here that scared the.
Yeah, and apparently we have lots of little newts or something on the property, because as I'm bush hogging, I'll see them running out of the brush.
What's a newt?
I don't know. It runs out in front of me. It's a little
newt.
It's a little ball. It looks like a guinea pig. It's about yay big, and it hops
through
the grass. But apparently I actually got a lot of gnomes.
Well, they're a protected species. Are you aware of
I didn't kill any newts. It was just
newts were harmed in the bush hogging of this past year.
But I felt bad for them as they ran, as they fled their homelands as the bush hog came through. But what can you do? I mean, you gotta clear the property.
Yes, absolutely.
It's one of those things. But great fun. Killer. So this may be something we can even talk about. There's so much of a connection to Grandpa Martin and the tractors on the farm, because that's where we learned how to drive a tractor. I realize even the comfort that I feel on a tractor has a lot to do with he was teaching us to drive big giant tractors when we were 8, 9, and 10 years old.
So
just crazy.
For context, when we were kids, when the Pastords were kids, we would go sometimes weeks at a time in the summer to the farm in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. And our granddad Martin ran the farm.
Tiny farm, only 40 acres.
Little thing.
But
cattle, some mules, horses,
a pond on the second pasture, an old cabin. Civil War supply line.
We've talked about, but we grew up. There's something about the machinery. What did he call? Well, he had the mowing machine. Of course, that was the machine.
Well, I could hear his voice several times because we never had a bush hog on Grandpa's farm, because he would use the mowing machine versus a bush hog. But I remember he telling me, and I could just hear it in my head as I'm bush hogging, you got to watch yourself with that thing. It's not a play pretty. Cut you clean in half. I'm like, well, why are you putting an 8-year-old on a machinery that could cut him clean in half? In his words,
he had no fear. And it was good for us.
It was very good for us.
That was just
because the bush hog is so sturdy, you can stand on it and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, I wonder if he'd let us ride on the bush hog. You couldn't let David, because David would walk off the front end.
No, but what you've talked about, even with the rake, the hay rake,
we would sit on the back of that.
That is
with tines, huge tines that are turning like this. That are
anyone who knows what a hay rake is knows that
you don't sit on the back.
That was a form of child abuse. It would not be. It would be frowned on today, I think.
So yes, I probably need to build a sled out there now.
Yes,
because you don't have to have wagons. You don't have to have wagons on farms. It turns out. You just build a sled, a giant wooden sled. This was probably 5 foot by 8 foot, 6 by 8, something like that.
6 by 8, probably, yeah.
And a giant
made
chain.
Out of 2 by 6s, 2 by 8s. It was, yeah.
It was very big, but you could use it for everything.
Right.
It turns your tractor into a dump loader. You could pick up stuff. You could carry grandkids on it, but he used it to pull stuff all around the farm.
Now Grandpa was very, just tons of ingenuity. Just I'm going to try. Of course, he could fix anything. We were always fascinated by that. But the sled was that was one expression of I'm going to try something. I'm going to make something. Anyway, so that was the farm living.
Is the life for me.
Grew us up, man. That was.
So it made me think about what are other things in our lives that connect us to the past. So one of the things that I'm enjoying right now, surprisingly, is the trains. So we live on 8th Street now, right next to Roger and Joy. For context, in a tiny 850 square foot house, which is quite small to us. We're still trying to. Cooking in that kitchen still feels very claustrophobic to me. I'm like, I don't have room. I just don't have room. I'm just like, yeah, it's very, very tiny. But I love morning and night the trains running.
Yeah.
And for me, it's just very comforting. And again, trains have always connected me to this bygone era, like Civil War times, like way back when there was trains. But I love it's such a cool form of transportation, and they're so dadgum big and heavy that the whole neighborhood vibrates.
Yeah.
When they're coming through, and I just love it. Other people might hate it, but I'm just like, that's just so cool. It's a connection to the past.
And that in particular, because it's fascinating, because it's a technology that, it has evolved at some level.
I thought it'd be gone by now.
Right. It's one of those things you would think.
Right.
And so in the earliest days of, you think about interstate transport, it was the lead edge technology. Right. Well, you're talking about getting goods from the east to the west when you end up having the railway and they finally joined it together. Right. And you had from east to west connected by train. You would have thought, like we know the early technologies are the ones that get phased out, and the newer technologies replace them. The train has never been replaced.
That's very interesting.
It's fascinating.
It's why I want to do a train trip at some point with Marlena, just because I love I mean, a long one, like 3 or 4 days, right, where you're seeing a whole section of the country.
We should do that.
No, I just think it'd be a blast.
No, we should do an Amtrak.
Yes, let's set it up for the girls.
No, we should do that, because I agree. I think that would just be.
It's a whole different way of travel. You're not in a hurry.
Yep.
That's for sure. Lots of stops.
You're not in control. Nope. It's not you or me driving, which we like to have that steering wheel in our hands, but you're letting somebody else.
We're letting someone else drive? I don't think I've thought through this quite enough. I'm not even sure you know what a train is, Bruce.
Pretty sure you've never been allowed in the cockpit of a plane you were going to travel on.
No, I've been in the cockpit of a train before, though. That was traveling. I think I did that at the Chattanooga Railroad Museum. You remember those days?
Does not count.
Yes, they would let you in. They would drive. You were in there.
Okay, Mr. Bruce, you can get up on the.
You were in there, and it was moving, and you were driving the train with a series of levers.
I think that was a circus ride.
But think about it, driving a train.
You're driving the train, Bruce.
Think about it. Are you ever really driving a train? I mean, it's not like it's got a steering wheel. Can you imagine if a train could just steer right off the tracks anytime it wanted and just start shooting down the roadway? That would be a real problem.
Maybe it's another reason why that technology has lasted so long, is you can't really screw it up.
Well, you can. I do, because I learned from another person in the last month that.
How can you screw up a train ride?
Well, the train tracks have to be constantly monitored there's people that have like resonance imaging and whatnot. And so they're in the trucks. Have you seen the trucks that are on the tracks
Yes.
that have truck wheels, and then the truck
And then
wheels
they
go
have-
up and
yep.
they drop down? Well, what
They
they're
come
doing
down our
is,
they come down our street from time
Okay,
to time.
they're doing
'cause they'll go on there.
imaging.
Yeah.
So they're looking for any fractures or cracks in that thing. And when they get one, they like GPS record it. And then another team has to come out and repair it.
Yeah.
Like, welding or whatever has to happen to make
Right.
sure that crack doesn't become a break. Or it's like, that is just fascinating. I never thought about it. I'm like, yeah, you'd have to maintain those things all the time.
Right.
But it's the other thing about that technology, a little bit like what's going to happen when everything goes wireless? What are we going to do with all these wires?
We're already
There's
running
wires.
into that.
We're already running into it. There's wires everywhere. But I was like, even at the the Plainview house, I was taking pictures of the inside, getting it ready to rent, and I was like, there's like a big giant cable that's in the
Right.
that's in the living room. I'm like, is anyone ever going to use it?
Right.
Is anyone ever going back to cable?
All these wires, right.
I mean, we got Google Fiber that just comes into the house on a wire.
Right.
But then once it's in your house, it's just free
Right.
range.
Right.
You don't have to plug anything in. That's just fascinating. So, but you'd have train tracks, I guess, hundreds of thousands of miles of train tracks all
Right.
over the United States. What are you going to pick those up?
Well, we even have some now that are no longer in use.
Right. I remember that every time I crossed that one on Governor's Drive.
Yeah. So there are a few that you have
Right.
that are never, and you've seen fun things done with them, whether it's a museum or a diner or some other different kinds of things. You checking out our comments here?
I am. I loved it.
Anyone? Thankfully, they're not telling us we have no sound.
Oh, he said, if your tractor has a joystick, it isn't really a tractor. Well, welcome to the 90s, Mr. Banks. Okay. Tractors have joysticks now. In addition to throttles and all that other
Does
fun
that
stuff.
make me feel like with our emerging generation, this feels more like a video game?
Yeah, I
Now
guess
you're
so.
right. I wonder when cars are going to have joysticks. Don't tell me they already have them.
Not that I know of.
Can you imagine? Ooh, I want to go right a joystick.
No, okay. 'Cause I will tell you this: the hardest piece of machinery to drive for me thus far has been the zero-turn mower. I almost killed myself the first time I took it out. I actually mowed a section of fence.
Were you renting one?
No, I bought one for out at the farm.
You have a zero-turn mower?
On the farm. And Roger, trying to drive that thing, there's no brakes. There's no law on the land. I just want to brake where you can stop, but you can't stop. You just pull back, but you can't pull back far because if you pull back too much, and not only brake starts going backwards. And then if you get just slightly off, you'll start spinning. And you can't stop it because there's not a brake. I'm like, what? This isn't the oversight of the century.
I'm going to get Marlena to take a
Just
video
put
of
a
you
brake
the next
on it.
time you get on that thing. I have to see this.
No, I literally mowed a piece of barbed wire fence because I went, I just turned into it, just shot into it. And I was like, what?
Someone got a hold of the joystick.
Yeah, no joystick, just two. I'm like, a steering wheel would have been nice on that. Couldn't they create a zero-turn mower with a steering wheel? I don't know, but that's.
And I've seen those mowers with the handles on them. Yeah,
That's what a zero-turn is.
Okay.
So imagine, if you want to go left, you have to push on the right one forward and potentially slightly back. Now, if you go too far back, you're going to spin. You're going to keep spinning.
Throw you off that baby.
If you want just a slight turn, you keep this hand steady, and then you just move the other hand forward a little bit.
Now, if it throws you, does like the thing shut off? Is that how it does? That
Well, I don't know. It's got a
auto
giant
cut off?
roll bar, so when you do flip it, because apparently that's
It's got
what
a
you're gonna
roll
do.
bar?
Yeah, you're going to flip it, and a seatbelt. Because think about it, a roll bar wouldn't be particularly helpful unless you had a seatbelt. So yeah, I'm a 3 John Deere family right now. I've got a John Deere riding mower, a John Deere zero-turn, and the John Deere.
So you have 3 properties.
Utility tractor.
You got 3 mowers. None of them a Lamborghini.
No.
Okay.
Great fun.
No, yes, your life seems. You got all these powerful equipment. Like I've got a power drill. I've got a sawzall.
You got a bunch of power drills now. I upgraded Roger to a bunch of. Well, I can't say it's really an upgrade. I gave him an 18-volt set of DeWalt cordless
Yes,
drills and saws and sawzalls and circular saws and whatnot. Yeah, so shouldn't we be talking about something important?
Well, these things God gave us richly to enjoy, farms and equipment and family and trains.
And it is
These
fun.
aren't unspiritual.
I agree. But I just thought maybe
We should be talking about
we should be talking about something else.
something. Well, I had a little insight. I'll tell you a translation of a Bible passage that I came up with.
There you go. In the last 10 minutes, we're going to get
The
there,
last
people.
10 minutes, right? We're going to, right.
Here we go.
This is where we're going to talk about Jesus. And of course, obviously, Jesus is important.
Yes.
But he's behind the farm. He's behind the equipment. He's behind all this stuff. Anyway.
Like literally behind it, like behind the chainsaws.
I don't really want him. Listen, if Jesus is behind you,
yeah,
you need to switch places.
Right.
That can be that we can just do our ditty right now.
When you're backing up the bush hog, you don't want anything behind you. Let me just tell you that right now.
Listen, you want Jesus ahead of you. At worst beside you, but you do not.
Well,
you do not want to be doing like Peter. Hey, I'm going to lead the way here now, Jesus. You follow me.
It's bumper sticker theology. So for a while there was a Jesus is my co-pilot, and then there was the new bumper sticker that outdid that one. If Jesus is your co-pilot, you're in the wrong seat.
You're in the wrong seat. I'm just imagining Peter when he was saying, you know that whole Messiah thing? Listen, I'm going to show you the right way on that. You just stay back there.
I'll be your marketing guy.
I'll guide you.
I'll be your promotion guy. So you were going to say something about a translation.
No, John 15.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about this. So John 15, there's this point where Jesus says, remain in me. Remain in, he says, just as the Father has loved me, I have loved you. Remain in my love. Remain in my love. Just as I have remained in my Father's love and the Father's loved me. So I was thinking about that phrase. What does it mean to remain in my love? And so I'm, then he says, if you obey my commandments, you remain in my love. I was thinking, okay, like one idea of that could be, okay, if we obey, God will love us. We'll remain in his love. But I realized here was the translation that came up. Remain in my love. Another way of putting that is let me love you.
Yep.
In other words, obeying my commandments is not okay. If you obey my commands, all right, now I'm going to love you back. No, if you obey my commands, you're letting me love you. Because all of God's commands, it's how it's different than I am. So when I've had control, for me, commands get mixed up. Sometimes it's for the benefit of the others, but a lot of times for the benefit of me.
Sure. It's all about Roger.
It's about Roger's brand, Roger's control. I can remember the times when even when we're kids, I want to be in charge because I get to tell people what to do. It was about me. But God's commands, the only time he ever gives commands, it's always out of love for us. And when we obey them, we are letting him love us. In other words, so I was just thinking that literally the dilemma we're dealing with when I'm deciding whether or not to obey something, to forgive, to believe the best about, to be kind, to be patient,
to accept someone,
to serve, give, whatever. If I'm wrestling with that, because sometimes I don't feel like that, what I'm really wrestling, am I going to let God love me? Am I going to remain in his love? Because here's when I step out, when I say, I'm not going to follow this command.
Yep.
I'm stepping out of the love of God. In other words, I'm not letting him love me. It doesn't change. He still loves me dearly. But if I'm ignoring him, if I'm ignoring God, I'm not letting him love me.
Yeah. And it's something I've been teaching for years about. You've
already been on this? Oh.
Well, no, I'm reading through John at the same time right now. I'm only through chapter 9 right now.
Yeah.
But it's that whole thing of, I said for years, my understanding was, if you love me, you will keep my commands. Then the Father will love you and we'll make our home with you and all that. And I was like, all right. So my understanding was I was the source of love. So I had to love God. Okay. The way that I did that was by keeping his commands. So I'm going to prove God how much I love him by keeping his commands. And then as a byproduct of that, God's going to love me.
Right.
And so I grew up in that kind of understanding. And then somewhere around 2001, when I had my own struggle with keeping the commands of Jesus.
Wait, you only had one season of struggle?
Well, I'm just saying it was a significant struggle. Okay. And I'm like, I can't seem to do the right thing here. I want to do the right thing. I can't seem to do the right thing.
I'm botching it up a lot.
Right. I'm messing it up a lot. I came to realize, no. It's God is first love. we only love him. John goes on later on in 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John to talk about the only reason we love God is because he first loved us. God initiated this whole thing. And he said in John 3:12, I think, 1 John 3:12, he says, we know and rely on the love that God has for us. So for me, remaining in God's love is remaining in this. I am beloved. Whether I keep the command or not, I'm the beloved. What you're bringing out is a beautiful part of how this works out in real life. But because I'm loved, what it frees me to do is love myself. And it's this beautiful way. I do. I love who God's made me to be. But it frees me to love others. And isn't that what keeping the command of Christ is? I want you to love others as I have loved you. And so it's this, I'm remaining in the love of God. When I think of that word remain, stay, abide, the way it's translated.
Abide,
the way I teach it on the trail is stay where you are. And I talk about what's home on the trail. And you'll hear this weekend. Roger's going on a backpacking trip with me this weekend. It's going to be 21 degrees. Yay. But what I teach people is when you get lost at some point, you're off the trail, you're lost. Panic tells you to just keep walking. It's just over the next hill, or it's just, or I recognize that and you want to move. And I'm like, no, you have to go. I'm not lost. I'm right here. And this is home. And you set your backpack down right there.
Right now. Okay.
I know this is home, because if you lose that sense of where you are right now, you're going to get really lost. And people have died literally 200 feet from the trail because they were wandering around. And so you go from that point, you'll hike backwards 50 yards, keeping that point in your, eye line the whole time. If you don't find a trail, you come back to it. This is home. I'm not lost. And you go back in multiple ways. The whole thing being, that's always home. And for me, the parallel is that's always the love of God. But that's always my eye line, no matter how much I struggle in whatever realm, because I'll get off the path sometimes. Yeah. But I know, nope, God loves me. That's home. So I tell people, stay where you are. To stay in the love of God just means every day I have to live in that space, because humanly speaking, with the struggles that I have in my mind, and the struggles that I have in my lifestyle, I'm like, I don't always love God. And maybe God doesn't love me either. Maybe he's really disappointed. I have those thoughts. I know that's not true cognitively, but maybe it's more a feeling. I have those feelings. I get it if I can't be a part of God's kingdom. I'm just such a disaster sometimes. But the reality is I come back to it, but no, God loves me. He loves me deeply in all of this. And that actually stirs right behavior. It stirs, I want to love others well again. I want to serve others. I want to care for others. I want to forgive others.
Well, loving people, and this is that tension, loving God, obeying God's commands is a way of loving. Jesus said, if you love me, you'll keep my commands. So that part is true. It's where we take that can get unhealthy. In other words, it is true that keeping God's commands is a way of loving him, but we invariably turn that into trying to get him to love us back.
Earn his love.
Where we think obeying his commands, this is what I'm looking to speak into here, is obeying his commands is a way of securing his love, that it's a way of, no, that love, what you're talking about, that place that does not change, his love doesn't change. My actions aren't earning anything. It's where that even sometimes we're tuned into, I don't want to piss God off. I don't want to tick him. I don't want his displeasure. Whether we're thinking about the things that give him joy, the things that give him delight, where I'm not earning anything. I'm not trying to, that's as secure, because I love what Jesus said when he said, just as I keep the Father's commands and remain in his love.
Yeah.
There's no point at which Jesus is trying to keep the Father loving him.
Right. I've got to do this.
So I've got to do this.
So the Father will love me.
Right. So but we're in the same, because that's the fascinating. He keeps comparing the love of the Father and the Son to his love for us. We are as secure in the love of the Father as Jesus is.
And that's the staggering thing that we could have spent the entire podcast on, because that's so important. This idea that God loves me as he loves Jesus. That is hard for me to wrap my head around. But Jesus almost uses that nesting term. But you have to understand how it works. I'm in the Father and you're in me. And then when I leave, I'm going to put the Holy Spirit in you. Yeah. It's like God is connected with us like in 4 different ways. It's like Father, Son, and Holy Spirit are now woven into us, and we remain in that. We can't be. And I just love that
Right. He's in us and we're in him.
And we're in him.
Right. It's
That's
just
a
this
God concept that we can't even wrap
Right.
our head around. We're like, you can't be in something and have it in you at the same time.
Which is this little pointer to me, again, Bible's not something that's man-made book. That's not an idea that
Right,
we come up with.
That others come up with.
Right. It's too staggeringly beautiful and powerful when you think about God. So
what does it look like as we finish to not let God love you? Is that when I'm in the earning thing? When I'm on the treadmill of earning, I'm not actually letting God love me?
Well, that could be it. But also, when I decide to go my own way, in other words, the prodigal leaves the home. The father desperately wants to love. He's not letting the father love him till he comes back home.
Yeah. And the father never didn't love him in the process.
No, he's looking. He can't wait. He can't. So the one piece of it is what you just said, but the other piece is where I'm also, and you even look at the elder brother. There's a point where he won't let the father love him at the end. The elder brother, the younger brother's letting him. The older, because so are we. When I decide, like sheep are going astray. When I decide I'm going to do my own thing, it's like the sheep. I'm heading out on my own here. I'm going to get outside the fold,
jump over the wall. Turns out sheep can jump.
I love that. They are.
They're jumpers.
Like this, like boom, boom, like
jumpers. Yeah, it's the darndest thing.
But it's like, it's that comedy of, I want my freedom, but I'm stepping out of. If I know better than the shepherd, I know better than the father, I know better than God. Well, now I'm not. I know better than the parent.
And Roger, right? Both the older brother and the younger son, at different points, refused to let the father love them. So at the time that the younger son finally let the father love him with the big party, the older son refused to let the father love him in the same moment.
Right.
Absolutely not.
And the love for the prodigal son, the younger, that it was like we're talking, is staggering.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just incredible love. It just, in fact, it was so.
Yeah.
You're still going to get the coat of many colors. You're still going to get the sign of the beloved. You're going to get the ring, the family ring, the signet ring. You're going to get all the things. And he's still there. Has to let that. He has to trust that, because we've talked about this. Isn't sometimes the magnanimity of grace hard to? It just doesn't seem right. Doesn't seem fair.
Right. Absolutely right.
It feels like God should reject me.
That's what I'm talking about. The feeling.
Yes.
That I've had before. It just feels like, no, there's no reason that God should keep me in the game. And
we have to be reminded, no, he loves us dearly. We've just got to let him
let God love you.
Obey so you don't get in God's way of loving you.
That was terrible.
It wasn't one of my finest.
It was genuinely awful. We're going to end it there because
you're not going to try and you can. No. This is your moment. There's anything north of that.
No, but it's just.
Here's the thing.